Alright everyone, how are we doing? It's Friday, etc, etc. We are back. We have the usual Friday offering for you today, which includes a look back at some of the major Celtic related stories to come out in the last 48 to 72 hours. And of course, at the end of the video, we'll look ahead to Sunday's game against Kilmarnock. And I've got a cough as well. At this stage, I should say a very large thank you to the Patrick Sarsfield CSC in Limerick for sending over this very, very nice looking white t-shirt. Fits very nicely. And they were celebrating their 25th anniversary last May, just as Celtic were getting their hands back on the Premiership trophy. So a big thank you to Martin in particular for sending me this over. So yeah, we're going to wear it on today's video. Okay, usual script for a Friday. As I say, I've been writing over on 67hailhail.com the past few days, and there's been a fair amount of stuff going on. Let's just start with the joint British and Irish bid to host UEFA Euro 2028. Quite simply, 10 stadia have been announced, and they are there with just one of them in Scotland, and it's not even the best one in Glasgow. Hampden Park will host games if the bid is successful. Obviously, was always going to be that way. It was always going to be Hampden Park over Celtic Park, even though any match-going supporter would say they prefer Celtic Park. It's just a much nicer stadium, a better view from your seat, which is kind of a big deal. But apparently UEFA go for stuff like infrastructure that is in place for players, officials, the media and more, and fans are just forgotten about a wee bit. The real thing I wanted to just mention here is the SFA Chief Executive Ian Maxwell did speak a little bit about plans for additions and some improvements to the stadium as part of the bid. Maybe just start with improving that pitch, mate, but we'll see how that goes. Yesterday, Rangers women's coach Craig McPherson was handed a 6-match ban for breaking SFA disciplinary rule 77, which is written there. Yeah, that's long enough. Which covers violent conduct, basically. He was the coach who, I think I need to say allegedly at this point, even though we all kind of saw it happen, allegedly headbutted Fran Alonso. 6-match ban for him. He'll actually miss the next Celtic versus Rangers SWPL match. So a wee boost for Celtic there. Not that we need it. We are ahead of Rangers in that league as well. As you will probably have seen, and this is something I do want to speak about a wee bit more in depth. Yesterday, the Premier League, so the English Premier League, announced that gambling sponsors would be removed from the front of matchday shirts from the 2026-27 season onwards. The league is the first in the UK to take such a measure. It then came out later yesterday that the SPFL has no plans to follow suit. But it really does feel to me like this is kind of the start of like football fighting back a wee bit at gambling companies, effectively. Of course, Celtic have a gambling company, DafaBet, on the front of all of our match shirts. We have since the Invincible season back in 2016-2017. The contract is set to run until the end of season 2024-25. So what's that? 2 more years after this one. And I think there seems to be a wee bit of feeling that Celtic should look elsewhere away from DafaBet and gambling companies at that stage. I certainly feel that, being the club that we are and what we stand for, and certainly given the work that the Celtic Foundation does, it's always kind of grated a little bit at me that we have a gambling sponsor on the front of our shirts. Just speaking personally, I'd hope that there would be pressure from supporters placed on the club to move away from DafaBet or any other betting companies at the end of this current deal. I know a lot of people out there would prefer we didn't have alcohol manufacturers either. I don't know if manufacturers is the right word there. Can you manufacture alcohol? Maybe. Magners we have on the back of our shirts. They previously were the front shirt sponsor prior to DafaBet. People feel strongly about that as well. I totally get that. Just personally, gambling companies for me shouldn't be anywhere near a Celtic shirt, and I'd like to think the majority of people agree with that. So a good move from the English Premier League. It'd be great to see Scotland following suit. But even if that doesn't happen, I think Celtic should be looking to lead this way. I know it's worth money to us, and I get that. It's worth a lot of money, I think. But, money isn't everything. Might surprise you to hear that. Okay, moving on. In other news, we had Stephen Naismith mentioning us as a positive example in what was his first press conference as Hearts interim manager. He brought us up unprompted, effectively, which I thought was interesting. We also had the Green Brigade requesting that Celtic fans going to the upcoming Scottish Cup semi-final at Hampden wear green and white shirts to that game. Green and white hoops, effectively, the home kit. They've also asked, I think, for green and white scarves, banners, flags to be brought along there. Really turn the Celtic end green and white, just like it was there in Seville, 20 odd years ago. We also had Ross Wilson departing his role as Rangers, I think, sporting director. Another man chased out of town by Ange Postecoglou. On to Sunday then, and a reminder of how the Premiership table looks. It's not actually shown there, but we have netted 98 goals so far this season, and the 100th will be scored on Sunday as well. I'm extremely confident in saying that, just looking at previous matches. Here's a wee stat for you, right? Stop doing whatever you're doing and listen to this for a brilliant stat. I'm having quite a lot of them recently. Celtic have scored 2 or more goals in each of our last 20 matches in all competitions. So our last 20 matches, all of them, we've netted at least twice, which I think is pretty amazing. I'd love to know if we've ever done that before, because I'd be intrigued to find that out. And that does tell me that we've probably got at least a couple coming on Sunday to take us up to 100. If you're wondering what the last game that we didn't score at least 2 in was, it was our win at Pittodrie in mid-December when Callum McGregor struck late. We almost didn't score any in that match. So 100 goals for the season. Probably hit it this weekend, but even if we don't, we will hit it at some point between now and the end of the league season. And actually hitting a century of league goals in a season isn't something Celtic do every season, far from it. If you look back actually here at the 22 seasons so far this century, the 22 that have been completed anyway, Celtic have hit 100 goals or more just 3 times. Under Martin O'Neill there in 2003-04, we managed 105. 10 seasons later under Neil Lennon, we struck 102. And in the memorable Invincible season, we hit 106. Now, the current team is on 98. That's a ratio of 3.16 per match. If we keep that up until the end of the season, we will hit a remarkable 120 goals this Premiership season. And when you consider, as I say there, from the last 22, 23 seasons, the best so far is 106 in the Invincible season. And we're in 98 already and have 7 matches to go. We're going to go past that a fair bit, I would suggest. I mean, if we have another 9-0 on Sunday, we might even beat it this weekend. Stranger things have happened. In terms of Ange, he did speak to the media earlier today. Nothing major to write home about. I was kind of dozing off a wee bit, if I'm honest. Nothing against Ange, by the way. Just in general, wasn't a great deal happening. One really good answer he did give, though, was when he was asked about the abuse that was sent to last weekend's Derby referee, Kevin Clancy. Really shameful stuff there. Ange gave this brilliant response earlier today, saying, "It's concerning for any person. We shouldn't even be talking about it, that somebody needs to go to those lengths to invade somebody's personal life. We understand we work in a public space, and with that comes scrutiny, but that should begin and end within the profession, not go into our personal lives." If you look at last week, it was a real derby game. It had a bit of everything, but it wasn't a great game. It was a game riddled with mistakes from both sides. Players and managers made a lot more mistakes than officials on the day. If anyone analyses that game and thinks one moment decided that, they're not looking at the big picture. It's cough, honestly. I do actually have a cough, by the way. Injury-wise, Rio Hatate, Leah Labada, James Forrest and Anthony Ralston are all still out as they were last weekend. And just like last weekend, this is the team that I am going for, with Joe Hart in goal, a back four of Alistair Johnson, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Carl Starfelt and Greg Taylor. Just like last week, a midfield three of Callum McGregor, Aaron Moy and Matt O'Reilly. And just like last Saturday, Jota on the right, Maida on the left and Kyogo through the middle. I know there may be temptation in there for some people to bring in some players. I think back to that. Maybe I've got that early season game at Rugby Park on my mind, but Jota was on fire that day. Maida was really good from memory. Kyogo was good as well. Greg Taylor had a great game. So I'd have all of those guys in the team. You wouldn't change the back, the kind of back four and keeper. Midfield, maybe some people would want to see Iwata coming in for this one. Maybe some people would want Turnbull to start the game. I just think, give Aaron Moy another chance to get back to his best, because I don't know who that was playing in that shirt last week, but it certainly wasn't Aaron Moy. Maybe it was Matt Lucas or someone like that. But I think Moy could be an important player again on Sunday, and hopefully Matt O'Reilly as well. And that gives us Iwata, Haxa, O, Turnbull and Bernabe probably off the bench. They were the 5 subs last Saturday. I could see them being the 5 subs again on Sunday. Generally speaking, feeling quite good about this game. It can be a tough ground to go to, especially when that pitch is kind of sticky. But again, looking at my window now, and I live in Ayrshire for my sins. Sorry, I've always just wanted to do that, and that wee bit will only make sense and probably slightly funny to a small percentage, a tiny percentage of you that listen to a podcast called Football Cliches, which is like the best podcast going at the moment. So hopefully I made a couple of you get that wee one there. But yeah, it's sunny here in Ayrshire today. I don't know what it's going to be like on Sunday, but it was roasting hot that last game at Rugby Park, and Celtic were brilliant that day. Got an early goal. We're really kind of in a good place at that stage. And I think we are at the moment as well. That was the day we had the Bella Ciao song kind of being born. So it'd be nice to hear that on Sunday after a few goals. I'd certainly take 5-0 again. Quite simply, I just think this Celtic team is much better than Kilmarnock, and I think we'll see evidence of that on Sunday. Referee-wise, or official-wise, the referee is David Dickinson, assistant referee Craig Ferguson, and John McCrossan. The fourth official is Duncan Williams. VAR is Alan Muir, and assistant VAR is Gary Hilland. A few new names in there. Hopefully we have no major controversies. I'm still looking for a wee ticket to the game, so if anyone hears of any going, give me a shout on Twitter. But failing that, we will watch it at home, and we'll certainly have a post-match reaction for you after the game. Hopefully looking back on another big 3 points for Celtic. Goodbye.